Imagine putting a high-impact mini trampoline right in the middle of your perfectly curated living room.
I mean, a few years ago, that sounded like a total parenting disaster. Or, at the very least, a massive aesthetic eyesore.
Right. But today, it's actually rapidly becoming one of the most sought-after trends in modern interior design.
It really is.
So welcome to the 8th deep dive in our Spring and Stitch series. We are so glad you are joining us today.
Absolutely.
Our mission for this deep dive is to unpack a remarkably comprehensive 2026 guide by Judith Chandler Moses. It's titled Best Trampoline Ottomans for Kids, Safe Indoor Play.
Yeah, it's a fascinating read.
It is. We're looking at what is basically the ultimate parent hack. It's furniture that earns its keep twice. It serves as actual functional seating, and then boom, it transforms into a high-energy active play outlet.
Which is, frankly, a brilliant concept for burning off winter energy or managing small spaces. But when we blend static furniture with dynamic active play, the standards for safety and construction, they have to shift entirely.
Right, because of the movement.
Exactly. You can't just, slap some upholstery on a cold spring and call it a day. The physical forces at play completely change the moment a child starts jumping.
And that is exactly the core of what we're tackling today. We're laser focused on the practicalities of bringing one of these into your home.
Because there's a lot to consider.
There really is. We're going to look at the safety features that actually matter, foolproof setup and placement guidelines, and the maintenance routines required to make this kind of investment last.
The maintenance is huge.
Right. Because the market for these trampoline ottomans is just completely wild right now. I mean, you could jump online and find an $80 cover-only system, and right next to it, a $1,200 handcrafted, made-to-order piece.
Oh, yeah. The range is absurd.
It is. So how do you, as a consumer, know what is actually safe for your kids?
Well, we really have to start by looking at the foundation. The source material outlines a very stark market reality. While the price spectrum is massive, the sweet spot for quality-conscious families where you're securing genuine safety and longevity without paying a massive premium purely for, luxury branding that sits squarely in the $500 to $900 range.
Which, I mean, that's a serious investment. You are pricing this out like a primary piece of living room furniture, not a disposable playroom toy.
Right, because it has to function like a primary piece of furniture while simultaneously withstanding the abuse of a playground.
Makes sense.
So to justify that price tag, the guide establishes several non-negotiable requirements for a quality build. And the foundation of everything is the core engine of the Ottoman. It absolutely must be a commercial-grade rebounder.
And the guide is quite blunt about this distinction, isn't it?
Very blunt.
It points out that discount-grade rebounders, the ones you might find in big box stores for 40 bucks, they're going to start sagging and squeaking almost immediately, like losing their tension within 6 to 12 months.
Easily.
But a commercial-grade piece is engineered to last 5 to 10 years.
The difference really lies in how the equipment handles kinetic energy. A discount toy is designed for occasional lightweight use, but a commercial-grade rebounder is designed for repetitive, high-impact force over thousands and thousands of cycles. Yeah, the metal framing is thicker, the welds are continuous rather than just, spot welded, and the springs are tempered differently. And this heavy-duty construction directly enables the next critical requirement, which is an adult-rated weight capacity.
Okay, so what does the guide recommend there?
It states that 200 pounds is the absolute minimum, but 300 pounds or more is the target you really want.
I have to admit, seeing a 300-pound weight rating for a toddler's toy initially felt like total overkill to me.
It does sound like a lot.
Right. Why over-engineer it to that extreme when the primary user weighs, 40 pounds?
It comes down to creating a massive margin of safety. If a frame and its springs are rated for 300 pounds, a 40-pound child jumping dynamically isn't stressing the structural integrity anywhere near its maximum threshold.
Oh, I see.
Right, so the materials aren't fatigued by the use. Plus, let's be realistic, children grow quickly, they inevitably try to involve their friends, and parents often end up using these for a quick cardio workout themselves.
Guilty as charged.
Exactly.
Okay, so that structural integrity leads us directly into how the outer layers are built. The guide places a huge emphasis on certified materials.
Yes, it really does.
It specifically calls out CertiPure US foam, Ogi-Kotex Standard 100 fabric, and CPSIA compliance. It literally warns that without these certifications, you are just guessing on safety. But Why are these specific acronyms so vital?
Because the chemical makeup of cheap furniture is often highly toxic. Yeah. To keep manufacturing costs low, discount brands frequently use foam that is created with harsh chemicals for rapid curing. Or they treat the materials with really cheap heavy metal flame retardants.
That's awful.
It is. So CertiPUR US means the foam has been independently tested and verified to be free of ozone depleters, heavy metals, and those hazardous flame retardants. And Ocotex ensures the fabric itself is free from harmful levels of toxic substances.
When you picture a child using this, I mean, they are exerting themselves. They're sweating, breathing heavily, and their faces are directly pressed against or hovering just above this fabric.
Right.
So the off-gassing from cheap materials in a warm, enclosed living room is a real concern.
It's a significant indoor air quality hazard, so you absolutely need those certifications. And practically speaking, you also need those high-quality fabrics to be removable and machine washable.
Oh, for sure.
Oh,
Because no matter how safe the fabric is, a toddler is going to spill juice on it.
guaranteed.
If you have a beautiful piece of upholstery that cannot be washed, it's going to age out of your living room aesthetic in about 3 months.
Exactly.
The guide actually highlights a specific model that serves as the benchmark for hitting all these requirements. It's the Hopper by Spring and Stitch.
Yes, a great example.
It's a 36-inch kids model built to order in the U.S., featuring a commercial-grade rebounder core and entirely certified materials.
It really exemplifies that transition from a playroom toy to integrated home design.
Now, I do want to bring up the budget options the guide mentions, specifically those DIY cover-over existing trampoline systems.
Oh, right. Those.
Yeah, the idea is you buy a cheap mini trampoline and just buy a nice aesthetic cover to stretch over it. But reading through the physics of the commercial-grade cores we just discussed, that feels inherently flawed.
It is.
It's like putting a luxury diamond-encrusted phone case on a smartphone that has a completely dead battery.
That is a perfect analogy.
Sure, it looks stunning sitting on the coffee table. But the moment you actually try to rely on it, it fails because the core component is broken. The fancy exterior doesn't fix the underlying performance issue.
That analogy gets right to the heart of the issue. Wrapping a failing, squeaking, low-tension trampoline in beautiful, certified fabric does not magically alter its weight capacity.
No, of course not.
And it doesn't improve its structural integrity. It merely makes a physically unsafe situation look aesthetically pleasing, which might actually be more dangerous because it lowers the parent's guard.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Okay, so let's assume we have made the proper investment. We have the commercial foundation and the certified materials. Because the manufacturer isn't cutting corners on the build, they can integrate the physical safety features required for active play.
Right.
The guide breaks down a few specific design elements you need to look for, starting with what it vividly calls the bruise zone.
A highly accurate term.
It sounds painful.
It can be. On a traditional outdoor trampoline, the bruise zone is the perimeter where the jumping mat meets the metal frame and the springs. That transition area is where the vast majority of impact injuries occur.
So a high-quality indoor ottoman has to feature a robust, padded edge cover to neutralize that risk. We are talking about dense foam integrated directly into the design so a child's foot cannot slip between the springs.
Exactly. And next on the list is a non-slip base. The source emphasizes that the ottoman should never slide across hardwood or tile during use.
Never.
We have to consider the reality of lateral kinetic force. When a child is actively bouncing, they are very rarely jumping perfectly straight up and down on a vertical axis.
Oh, they're all over the place.
Right. They're propelling themselves forward, backward, side to side. They are imparting lateral energy into the jumping mat. If the legs of the ottoman do not have a high-friction, non-slip grip, that lateral energy transforms the entire piece of furniture into a heavy projectile.
A projectile sliding across your floor.
Ex-
A 30-pound piece of metal and foam surfing into the television or the glass coffee table is a disaster waiting to happen.
It really is.
The guide also brings up the necessity of an even bounce return. It warns that dead spots, areas where the mat doesn't push back with the same force, are a major red flag indicating failing springs.
An uneven bounce return is an incredibly subtle but dangerous defect. It heavily disrupts a child's proprioception.
Proprioception.
Yeah, proprioception is the body's subconscious ability to sense its movement, action, and location in space. So when a child jumps, their brain anticipates a uniform resistance upon landing to keep them balanced.
Okay, I follow.
If one quadrant of the trampoline is slacking, the child lands, encounters less resistance than expected, and their body weight is immediately thrown off center midair.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it basically guarantees an awkward, potentially injurious landing.
That makes complete sense. Now, there's one safety feature in the guide I really struggled to buy into.
Oh.
The author insists there must be a visible, bright fabric difference between the Ottoman's furniture mode top and the active mode jumping surface. The argument is that this color distinction signals to the child when it is safe to jump. But honestly, does a simple change in fabric color actually stop a hyperactive 2-year-old?
That's a fair question.
Like a toddler sees a bouncy surface and jumps. A beige linen cover isn't exactly a force field. Are they really going to analyze the color profile and politely refrain from bouncing?
Your skepticism is completely warranted because, physically, a fabric cover stops nothing. But the guide is leaning heavily into design psychology here. Specifically, the concept of affordances.
Affordances?
Yeah. Affordances are the visual clues that communicate how an object should be interacted with, like a flat metal plate on a door telling you to push or a handle telling you to pull.
Okay, but how does that translate to a highly energetic toddler who just wants to play?
It provides parents with a strict binary visual tool for behavioral conditioning. If the ottoman is a continuous uniform color, whether it's covered or uncovered, the lines blur for the child.
So it's always just a toy to them.
Right, it is always a trampoline to them. But if the active mat is bright yellow and the furniture cover is a subdued beige, it creates a clear environmental cue. It allows the parent to establish a consistent rule. When it is yellow, you may jump. When it is beige, it is a chair.
Oh, I see.
It takes time, of course, but psychologically it separates the two functions of the object in the child's mind.
So it is less of a physical barrier and more of an educational tool to help parents enforce boundaries consistently.
Exactly.
Okay, I can see the long-term value in that.
Yes.
So moving from the engineering of the ottoman itself to the environment it lives in, the guide is incredibly strict about setup.
Yes.
The most beautifully engineered ottoman becomes an absolute hazard if you place it poorly.
Spatial dynamics change radically the moment you elevate a child and add kinetic energy. The primary rule of setup is clearance.
The 3-foot rule.
Right. The guide mandates a minimum of 3 feet of unobstructed clearance on all sides and, crucially, overhead.
And the overhead clearance is what catches people off guard.
It always does.
If you place a 36-inch ottoman in a standard playroom, you might not notice the ceiling fan or the hanging light fixture until your child is suddenly 3 feet higher in the air, bouncing upward.
Which is an unacceptable time to discover an architectural hazard.
Seriously, I have to admit, reading through the placement guidelines, my intuition was completely backward on one specific point: the floor surface.
Oh, regarding rugs.
Yeah. If I am setting up a trampoline for a kid, my instinct says to place it on the thickest plush living room rug I own. Extra padding in case they fall right.
Right, you'd think so.
But the source explicitly warns against this. It states that hardwood and tile floors are perfectly fine, assuming you have that non-slip base. But rugs can actually be a massive slipping hazard. Wait, really? Why is a soft rug more dangerous than hardwood?
It comes back to the transfer of lateral force we discussed earlier. A rug, unless it is heavily bolted or glued down, is simply an unanchored textile. When a child bounces, the kinetic energy travels down through the legs of the ottoman. The non-slip rubber grips on the ottoman's feet will hold onto the rug perfectly.
That part makes sense.
But the energy doesn't stop there. It transfers into the rug itself.
Oh. So the ottoman grips the rug, but the rug loses its grip on the floor underneath.
Precisely. The lateral force causes the rug to warp, bunch up, and slide rapidly across the smooth floor beneath it. You have effectively put your trampoline on a magic carpet.
Wow. That is a terrifying mental image.
It really is. By placing the non-slip base directly onto a hard, fixed surface like tile or wood, you create a stable friction point that cannot warp under pressure.
That is a fascinating breakdown of the physics in a normal living room.
Okay.
So we have it safely placed on a hard floor, far away from ceiling fans with 3 feet of clearance. Now we have to govern how it is actually used.
Yes.
The guide establishes what I consider to be the golden rule of indoor trampolines.
The strict, uncompromising one user at a time rule.
Right. The guide makes a clear distinction here. Sibling sharing over the course of an afternoon is fine, but simultaneous use is absolutely forbidden.
Under no circumstances.
It states that double mounting is not only the leading cause of many trampoline injuries, but it is also the single biggest cause of premature equipment failure.
The physics of double bouncing are incredibly volatile, especially when dealing with children of different weights. When two users bounce out of sync, the springs become erratic energy stores.
How so?
While if child A lands heavily while child B is at the bottom of their bounce, child B absorbs child A's stored energy entirely, plus the massive return force of the tension
Oh
springs.
my goodness, it effectively turns the trampoline into a catapult.
That is exactly what happens, like a catapult. On a small 36-inch surface, an unexpected catapult launch almost guarantees the child will be violently thrown off the apparatus entirely, well beyond that protective bruise zone.
That is so dangerous.
And furthermore, the mechanical toll is devastating. The combined out-of-sync weight stresses the commercial springs in opposing directions simultaneously. Oh, I see.
That cross tension is what causes the metal to warp, permanently stretch, and fail years before it should.
Which provides essential context for the size guide. The source notes that a 36-inch diameter like the Hopper model is the ideal size for kids ages 2 to 8.
Yes.
And it isn't just because it fits nicely into a smaller room footprint. The smaller diameter restricts the jumping area, which forces the child to stay centered where the bounce is safest.
Exactly.
More importantly, the restricted size naturally discourages double bouncing. There physically isn't enough room for two kids to comfortably launch themselves at the same time. Form follows function to enforce safety.
It is an excellent example of passive safety design. The object itself discourages the dangerous behavior.
So if we are respecting the golden rule, and we have placed it on a hard surface with proper clearance, the final hurdle for parents is protecting the investment.
Right, because it's not cheap.
No. If you are spending up to $900, how do you ensure this piece actually survives that 5 to 10-year lifespan? It comes down to upkeep. Maintenance is the less glamorous side of active play furniture, but the guide breaks it down into a highly manageable routine. It begins with basic hygiene.
The recommendation is washing the covers monthly and spot cleaning them weekly. And there's a fantastic, highly practical tip buried in here.
The one about storage.
Yes. Keep the Ottoman's furniture top stored within immediate reach of the unit. Do not take it off and put it in an upstairs closet. Why? Because if the top is sitting right next to the trampoline, it can be replaced the exact second the bouncing session ends.
It removes the friction from the transition. If a parent has to leave the room to retrieve the cover, the jumping mat remains exposed, which invites unauthorized, unsupervised jumping.
And keeping it close reinforces the behavioral conditioning we talked about earlier.
Precisely. Now, regarding the mechanical lifespan, there is a maintenance tip that really stood out. The guide advises rotating the ottoman periodically, doing 180-degree turns to ensure the jumping surface wears evenly.
It made me think of rotating the tires on a car.
That's a really good way to look at it.
When you drive, the front tires bear different steering and braking forces than the back tires. If you never rotate them, the tread wears down unevenly and drastically shortens their usable life. The trampoline works the exact same way.
It really does.
If a child always steps up onto the ottoman from the exact same side and always faces the exact same direction to watch television while they bounce, they are repeatedly stressing the exact same cluster of springs.
The mechanical fatigue becomes highly localized. A simple 180-degree spin every few weeks distributes that mechanical stress across the entire circumference of the frame and engages all the springs equally.
So simple.
It is a zero-cost way to double the life of the tension system.
Alongside rotation, the guide recommends physically checking the spring tension every 3 to 6 months. You're looking for any slack or warping, and you tighten or replace individual springs as needed to prevent the dead spots we warned about.
Right.
Finally, the guide offers a very realistic expectation for long-term ownership. You should expect to replace the exterior cover long before you ever have to replace the rebounder itself.
Which brings us full circle to the 4 requirements we started with. The cover, regardless of its OEcoTex certifications or robust stitching, is taking the surface-level abuse.
Yeah, the spills and the friction.
Right. It absorbs all of that daily wear. It acts as the visible refresh. But the commercial-grade rebounder underneath, that is the long-term workhorse. If you have invested in a quality foundation, the engine will far outlast the paint job.
Zooming out, if you are listening to this right now, you possess the ultimate blueprint for navigating the trampoline ottoman market.
You really do.
To look past the luxury marketing and demand a commercial-grade rebounder with a 200 to 300-pound weight rating to guarantee that margin of safety.
Absolutely.
You understand why Certipure US foam is vital for your indoor air quality. To strictly enforce the golden rule of one-at-a-time jumping to avoid the catapult effect. And to place it on a hard floor, rotating it periodically to distribute mechanical wear. You are armed with the knowledge to make a safe, durable investment.
It is a highly pragmatic approach to what is ultimately a significant household purchase.
But I want to leave you with one final thought, something that really struck me in the author's closing notes. Judith Chandler Moses points out that design-forward pieces like the hopper are explicitly intended to live in the main rooms of the house.
Yeah, they're statement pieces.
They are crafted to sit in the center of the living room, not to be banished to a dusty, unfinished basement playroom.
It represents a fundamental shift in interior design philosophy and, by extension, family dynamics.
Exactly. If we are now intentionally and permanently integrating active, high-energy physical play furniture directly into our primary living spaces, how does that alter the traditional boundaries of a home?
It's a great question.
What does it mean for family life when the living room is no longer just a quiet, static space meant for sitting politely, but a place where kinetic energy, movement, and physical exertion are built right into the decor?
It changes everything.
It completely redefines the living room from a space of observation to a space of active participation. It is a fascinating evolution of how we live together. Well, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive into the Spring and Stitch series.
It's been great.
We hope this breakdown helps you find the perfect piece of dual-purpose furniture without ever compromising on safety. Thank you so much for joining us. Keep asking the big questions, and as always, stay curious.